Breaking at 11, tensions riding high tonight in downtown LA. Protesters firing fireworks at local law enforcement in riot gear. The National Guard being called in to keep the peace. Good evening, everyone. I'm Insignares.
And I'm Lesley Marin. This is a live look we want to get to from Skycal of downtown LA, where it has been a pretty chaotic evening the last few hours. Right now, you can see that all of the law enforcement in this area has now pulled out. There were some protesters that still remained here, and you can see them right outside that federal detention center. Moments ago, Gio, we have seen what you could consider agitators, really, the people lingering behind. They were attacking some of these law enforcement vehicles as they were pulling out, both LAPD and federal officials. Kicking and throwing objects at those vehicles as they were making their way out. Here's what we know so far. The LAPD has declared an unlawful assembly tonight in downtown LA. Officers trying to move hundreds of protesters off the city streets. And they created a skirmish line, but for the most part, protesters weren't abiding by their orders to disperse. So far, 20 people have been arrested over the course of the day. That's what we're hearing federally. Locally here by LAPD, we saw maybe half a dozen tonight. No confirmed number as of yet. We'll work on getting those. In the meantime, 2 of those arrested face charges of assault on a peace officer. 3 deputies were injured when a protester threw a Molotov cocktail. Their injuries are considered minor. Meantime, 2,000 National Guard members have been deployed by President Trump. They should arrive in the next 24 hours. We have live team coverage for you tonight of the civil unrest in the city, beginning with KCAL's Lauren Pozen. She's been reporting for us all night in the thick of it. Lauren, what's the situation right now? Lesley and I were just making a comment about a number of protesters still lingering and then agitating, we can say, a number of law enforcement vehicles.
Right, that's right, Gio. You know, and within the last 5 minutes here, officers did clear the skirmish line that was right over here that we've been showing you throughout the evening here. Right here at Temple and Alameda Street, you can see traffic is flowing. But when we flip the camera around further down, looking at First Street, in the distance there, you can see it looks to be like a crowd of people. And I want to go to some video from just moments ago, when they were throwing objects at patrol cars and police cars as they were getting out of the area there. When police were clearing the scene, a group of agitators threw items at those patrol cars. And that's what you should be looking at right now. You know, this all started today. There was a peaceful protest that kicked off about 6 o'clock. It was very peaceful. At times, people did go into the street, but it was nothing too out of the ordinary. But as soon as the sun went down, that is when we saw things escalate. Right around 8:15, 8:20 is when the group of protesters started going right up against the detention garage doors there. And behind them were officers on standby. But then somebody lit off a firework within the protester group, and that's when the officers immediately came out and they deployed tear gas, and there was clouds of smoke all over. With tear gas in the air, and that is when things really did take a turn. And they were protesters were at a standoff with police for at least a couple hours, I would say, because it went from 8:30 all the way up until 10:30, really, when we were live out here showing, you know, the group out here. I did notice was protesters as they were leaving the area. Some said that they will be back tomorrow, but you know, tomorrow is going to be a much different situation. We have the National Guard coming, and that's really going to change the scene here if they do choose to come out. I also did see a number of protesters tagging the detention building and the building around it. It is fully covered in graffiti and tagging. Done by the protesters here tonight. Again, throughout most of the evening, it was very peaceful, but then it took a dramatic turn. Back to you.
Yeah, the situation has quickly escalated out there, and then we'll see it really fluctuate, come down. But Lauren, I noticed there are still some people outside that detention center. Are you seeing that as well?
Well, you know, we moved up a little bit, Lesley, from it because we weren't able to get back over there because police. So I'm not able to see who's still out there because we're too far away. A block away from the detention center now, so I'm not able to see. But I mean, there's just because I should say, just because we don't see like we did earlier, that doesn't mean they're still not here. They are still in the area. From above with the helicopter, the LAPD's chopper has been circling numerous times in this area, so they are keeping a close eye on things. And that's an important note, Lauren, because of course you've been keeping an eye on this throughout the entire night, and we just saw a few minutes ago when the number of cruisers just reversed out, and you know we're seeing live from Skycal right now inside the building. It looks like a collection of law enforcement hanging right behind the barrier, that wall there. Yeah, still in riot gear, sort of, you know, standby might not be the right word, but they're there. They're ready to go potentially if anything were to happen. But before we let you go, Lauren, obviously making that point about seeing all those officers back up and sort of disperse and leave the area, but that things are still, you know, they're still on high alert from where you are. Oh, absolutely. And, you know, and we've seen that throughout the night here. Just when you think it might be getting calm, we won't count that as an incident, but, you know, just when you think it's getting calm, things pick up right up again. Lauren, and that's what we've been seeing throughout the night. We're going to break into your coverage right now just because we want to get to Mayor Bass, who we have on the line. You know, the raids have launched a war between the president and Gavin Newsom. The White House posted on X, California's feckless Democratic leaders have completely abdicated their responsibility to protect their citizens. That is why President Trump has signaled a presidential memorandum deploying 2,000 National Guardsmen to address the lawlessness that has been followed or allowed to fester, excuse me. And Newsom fired back tonight on X saying, quote, LA authorities are assistance at a moment's notice. We're in close coordination with the city and county, and there's currently no unmet need. That Trump move is purposefully inflammatory and will only escalate tensions. This is the wrong mission and will erode public trust. On that note, U.S. Attorney Bill Lesley had some stern words tonight for Governor Gavin Newsom and Mayor Karen Bass. Yeah, he spoke to us earlier on KCAL News at 8.
They're there to restore order. Anyone who looks at the scene on your TV, look at that. It's out of control. What normal person, what member of the public feels comfortable being in downtown LA right now? Nobody. He's talking about. He needs to watch the TV and see what's going on. It's out of control. And since he can't control the state, he can't control the lawlessness, we'll do it for him. And that's what the president's doing. He's deploying the National Guard. We will have order in the city of Los Angeles.
We have Mayor Bass on the phone right now. Mayor Bass, thank you for joining us. I want to ask you first your response to the U.S. Attorney's comments that you just heard there.
Well, let me just say that what is going on in L.A., you know, people have been absolutely traumatized by the raids, the intervention, and I know that the emotions are high. However, there is never an excuse for violence. So peaceful protests and people exercising their First Amendment right is absolutely what they should do, but it should never result in vandalism, in attacking police cars, in graffitiing up, and documented vandalism against the federal building is just completely unacceptable. Now, I am confident in our law enforcement partners here in Los Angeles that we can handle the situation. There is no need for 2,000 National Guard troops to come into our town. I know that I have been in regular communication with the White House as well as people close to the White House to talk to them about what is actually going on, because I don't want the situation to be conflated to appear as though everything is going awry in our city. That is just not the case.
You know, Mayor Bass, federal officials claim there was a 2-hour delay in LAPD assisting federal authorities yesterday. What is your response to that claim? And if there was a delay, do you know why there was?
No, and not only that, I don't know what you're referring to into to 2-hour delay. I certainly know because I heard from people in LAPD was not present. LAPD was absolutely present, and I sent, frankly, photos and videos so that people knew that LAPD was not missing in action. Now, having said that, I do believe that people can peacefully protest. However, when it gets out of hand, people should not be surprised when assemblies are declared unlawful and arrests are made.
Mayor Bass, I want to go back to what you said about regular communication with the White House and articulating the situation as to what's going on here in Los Angeles with them to give proper notice. The U.S. Attorney told us earlier tonight that the National Guard was to be expected in Los Angeles within the next 24 hours. So what do you expect to happen within that time frame, and what is the plan to address the situation if and when the National Guard does actually arrive here?
Well, let me tell you what I hope happens is that the National Guard does not come into the city of Los Angeles. As you know very well, some of the protests and the violence that happened today was not necessarily within the boundaries of the city of Los Angeles. So what I feel confident in is that the city, there will not be disorder in the city, and that the National Guard will not be needed. And I certainly hope the same thing is true in our other cities that have been impacted by this. You know, again, when people go to work in the morning and they get notice that there is an immigration action at their job, and you have families that rush up to the job and kids that are on site waiting to see what's happening with their parents, that's a pretty traumatic experience, and a lot of emotions are raised within that context. But that does not mean, nor should it ever be, a green light for violence.
And Mayor, you know, yesterday there were ICE detainments in the city. Today we saw them across the county of Los Angeles. Have you gotten any word on the current status of some of these people that have been detained? What are you currently hearing about the detainments in this federal detention center?
Well, thank you for asking that question. What I do know is that the advocates as well as the legal representation are wanting contact with the detainees. The lawyers that are representing are prepared to represent the detainees, would like to have contact with their clients. And so I have advocated on the federal level for that contact to be allowed. That would be very helpful in terms of tamping down the level of tension in our city right now.
These people have been detained for 24 hours. You're saying that with their attorneys yet?
Exactly. To my knowledge, they have not. I will admit that I haven't been in contact with the been notified that contact has actually been made, but I have requested that on a federal level.
Mayor Karen Bass live with us here on KCAL News. Mayor, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, we want to get out to Zach Boetto, who is live in Paramount tonight.
And Zach, you've been out there all day watching as things have escalated and potentially de-escalated. Can you paint the picture for us right now?
Well, Lesley, we are here outside of the Home Depot in Paramount, where those initial ICE raids took place this morning. And then we know that the protesters were clashing with those ICE agents right where we're standing. There's some debris here still on the road from those clashes. We have a flash bomb here, a pepper pellet there, and some fireworks here from protesters shooting those off earlier today. But like Mayor Karen Bass said, we've spoken to some individuals who were out here protesting this evening, saying that they have not been able to get in contact with their. Of course, we want to show you some video of what we've been seeing here all day. We've seen fireworks, we've seen those flashbangs, we've seen cars on fire. But one of the young men that we spoke with said that he was here at this Home Depot in Paramount this morning when ICE came and kind of blocked off his car. He was in the car with his girlfriend. Then ICE shot some tear gas in the vicinity of their car, as well as a car behind them with a young mother and her daughter. Here's what he had to say about ICE agents detaining his girlfriend.
As soon as we start recording, that's when they start pointing the tear gas guns, and they start shooting everything, everywhere. So we can't breathe, we can't see anything. She has her phone. One of the agents, I hear them go for the people with the phones. They went straight for my girlfriend. They ripped her out of my arms. They took her. They threw me. They threw me her phone. And I was like, where are you guys taking her? She's born here. Just like me, I'm a proud American. I'm a proud Mexican as well. But it's not fair that yesterday and the past months, ever since his presidency, you know, innocent people are taken from their houses, from their workplaces, you know, for no reason.
Let her go. 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 It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
And that video you're seeing now is of Fernando trying to plead with ICE agents to let his girlfriend go. And then the next video is Fernando coming to the side of a girl who was, again, tear gassed by ICE agents this morning. But again, I just want to give you another look at what the aftermath of these clashes look like here. We are outside of the Paramount Home Depot. It sounds like you guys have seen Lauren Pozen seen there in downtown LA, and what the action looks like. This is what the aftermath looks like. We have remnants of a cinder block here. Again, fireworks and flashbangs and really debris all over Alondra here. This road is Alondra. It goes over the 710 overpass, and there are still protesters clashing with Los Angeles County Sheriff's deputies tonight. And as for Fernando, he still has not been able to get in contact with his girlfriend, who was detained this morning, guys.
Zach Boetto, live from Paramount for us tonight. You've been out there all day. Thank you so much. Well, we want to get to a live look from Skycal of downtown LA. Take a look. This is the scene currently. We are seeing what looks like tear gas, or we want to get down to Lauren Pozen. Maybe she can give us an idea of what's happened here. Maybe those are fireworks. Lauren, what is going on? The situation has escalated since we last spoke to you.
Hello. I don't know if you can hear me or not. IFB, they're setting off fireworks in front of the detention center again here. You see something in the middle of the road right there. It looks like it's on fire. So it is. It's getting very intense out here again, and I see officers behind there by the garage door there. They're on standby there. And again, it's just tensions are very high. It is not at all here outside the detention center at all. You can see what they're going to deploy some more tear gas possibly. But this is, you can just see what a mess it is out here. You see all the graffiti all over everything. It's just a very, very unsafe situation out here tonight.
And it also looks like
I'm
traffic.
going to send it back to you because I can't hear anything with my phone.
By all means, Lauren Pozen down there live, and you see some of these officers coming out of the building now and potentially taking steps to disperse the crowd going on there. I was going to make a note to Lauren that also, you know, traffic is still trying to noticing in the last few minutes, but you see the smoke there near the bottom corners of your screen, and it looks like LAPD trying to disperse these crowds, and it's there's some fire on the road as well.
Being lit off at this hour. There's several. I think all told us that those are fireworks. Yeah, you can see them kicking them at the law enforcement officers there, and we don't know if that's LAPD or if those are federal officials, because they're coming out of that federal building there, the Metropolitan Detention Center. And this is the small group that has lingered here for the last few hours. We saw some people, you know, begin to attack some of these law enforcement vehicles. An LAPD vehicle, someone threw a large, what looked like a block or slab of cement, through one of the back windows, shattering it. And at this point, it looked like moments ago we saw just a group standing here. There was not much action being taken. And then all of a sudden we come back a few moments later, and you can see what looks like just haze in the air. We believe this is possibly fireworks that were lit, and now some of these officers coming out, and you can see they have that less than lethal munition on them. And
it really picked up after the initial crowd of officers that had essentially closed off this street, then moved on out of the area. They reversed out. That's when Lesley's point about the vehicle being damaged by those lingering protesters happened, and now you see traffic sort of moving on through now that things have opened up. But it's now evolved into the situation where you have officers, either federal and or LAPD, coming out of this building and reassessing the situation, and perhaps deploying some methods to disperse this crowd that is still hanging around the area. And doesn't seem at any of these moments in the last hour where it's a absurdly large crowd by any means. Just really more than a handful, maybe 2 to 3 dozen, as we've mentioned before. And you know, right now, as you take this live view from Skycal, it looks like they've now started to move back down a little bit closer to, I believe, 1st Street in this area here in downtown.
Yeah, we want to go back out to our Lauren Pozen. I think she can hear us now. Lauren, we're seeing the protesters now back away from the building. Give us an idea, a sense of what's happening.
Well, we were outside. I was trying to, tell you what was going on. And then all of a sudden, people started throwing off fireworks again directly at us. And at that point, tear gas was deployed again at us because we were on the side here, on the sidewalk here. And a whole bunch of people just came out and they just started just being disruptive in the street here. It looks, I'm sure you can see the camera picture here. You see there's officers. They're now lined up here outside the gates here. But protesters went again right up there and they started throwing fireworks. One of the fireworks went right under our news van, right in front of us. Very scary situation, not a safe situation out here tonight. The police are here. I don't see any protesters anymore. At this point, I think they should be called agitators because that was definitely not a protest. They had fireworks they were shooting off at police and people in public here.
Okay, Lauren.
So that is what the situation is out here.
I'm going to stop you just for a second because we did see LAPD pull up here to the intersection just down the street from where you are. It looked like they, were going to try to arrest some people.
Chasing after some folks.
They've pretty much showed that they've had enough, and a lot of these people began to run in all different directions here. There's not many law enforcement, I will say, Gio. I'm sure more are coming.
There you go. You have a few more there at the bottom of your screen.
But it looked like officers were going to begin to take action to stop these people from, throwing any more fireworks in the area.
You see the live footage there. I presume this is from Lauren's live shot here. The number of people just...
They're probably all running towards her direction, yeah.
And running away. Lauren, if you can hear us, is that what's going on with you?
Well, yes, there are people running away from the police here, and I see there's a patrol car coming up and people running. It's very, very chaotic out here. People are running in both directions.
Yeah, it looks like
away from the police and now police. Yeah, that's... It's been a very long night with people running. Now they're going up on the camera here. You see just very, very chaotic out here tonight. And I see the police are out there again. I don't know if they're going to be moving forward or not, but the police are definitely here. They're watching this, and I'm sure they're going to be making some arrests if they're able to.
Please be careful there, Lauren. We're seeing a large group by your live truck now, and they are now getting into the metro train lanes there. Very dangerous situation. You cannot be in that area. We just heard from Mayor Bass.
Yes.
She has criticized the president, saying that he wants to deploy 2,000 National Guardsmen here. She feels like local law enforcement has this under control. We do not want to make this situation, she said, bigger than it is.
Right.
And she also said, but the people who are out there that are causing violence, that are vandalizing buildings, vandalizing law enforcement vehicles, they should not be surprised that they're going to be met with force from law enforcement. This is not something we want to see in the city, nor does she condone here in the city.
And it's something that's been echoed by others that we talked to this evening. That includes Assemblymember Mark Gonzalez, who earlier this evening, a couple of hours ago, said essentially the same thing, is that there's no condoning of violence or extreme agitation, that they're trying to keep the focus on peaceful assembly, on First Amendment right to free speech, on protesting and exercising those rights. But when it escalates to a point like we've seen in some of these instances, that is something that the mayor and that other elected officials have been firmly against in decrying in our conversations. And right now, I mean, it's sort of evolving into a really chaotic situation where you have a number of people running in different directions and running into places that are extremely dangerous, as you mentioned, Lesley. And it's you just hope that it winds down to a safe conclusion. But to your point earlier, also, in seeing those officers, come back to the scene, to that intersection, and then right there, they almost sort of have reestablished a bit of a skirmish line that wasn't there in the last few minutes, just reestablishing themselves and settling into a moment to say, all right, we have had enough of this situation, because things escalated right around the 11 o'clock hour. When fireworks are being thrown off and shot toward officers, and other law enforcement vehicles were getting hit, and objects being thrown at those vehicles as they were crossing through the intersection and through traffic. And this lingering group, these number of folks that are just hanging around the area, seem to be the prime agitators, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, and you're now seeing them again make their way into where, the metro runs here, and very dangerous situation, especially for, if one of those trains were to come by here. Yeah. They have all run under what looks like a tunnel that this train goes through, trying to get away from law enforcement after, for hours, it really agitating law enforcement and saying that they weren't going to leave. Right. And at this point, law enforcement decided that they were going to show some force, because they were seeing fireworks being thrown at federal officials once again tonight. And these people now just trying to run through this tunnel and get away. And at this point, I think law enforcement is going to, make sure that this area clears out. Yeah, and it's not a small number of people either running into those tunnels. There's another group right down there. It's a large collection of folks, and it's can be really dangerous.
It is. It's stunning to see, honestly. To be frank about it, what started as just a handful has now turned into this exceedingly long line of folks running into the tunnels, and it's odd to see. But as we pan back up and out, notice right there, just a few in the last couple seconds, a few extra law enforcement vehicles pulling up behind that initial row and reestablishing a point right there on the corner of the street. And I mean, my goodness, now you see even more of a response. And this was an area that was essentially cleared. Not to the fullest extent, but the majority of what we had seen, they started to move out and get away from the area in the last half hour or so. After about 10:45 to 11 o'clock is when things started to lighten up a little bit. And then that's when there was a group of protesters that lingered around and then started throwing things, including fireworks and other objects, at the vehicles. But right now, as we get back to, looks like the building here, the federal building, I believe here, the detention center, we have a number of officers still. Looks like they're going to be walking back in, but other law enforcement still patrolling the area. This is a lesser number in the middle of your screen now than what we've seen earlier on this corner. But it's hard to really let your guard down in any sense, because at any given moment something could happen, and we've seen that happen live here over the last half hour.
Yeah, every time law enforcement really pulls back, it looked like that group that was left, things started to escalate, but that group now has completely left, ran through the tunnel there, and that just also becomes a very dangerous situation unless they're able to get out of the way of the tracks, LAPD has come out. You can see them there, but it really didn't look like they were, taking any chances anymore. They really wanted this to come to an end for everyone's safety. And now it looks like there was a moment there within the last hour where we were commenting about how there were significantly more officers than protesters, at least a larger amount of officers compared to protesters. And then when that dynamic flipped is when we really started to notice the chaotic energy level sort of step up, and then you saw those fireworks and everything sort of escalate once again. Now we're back to the opposite end, where now you have law enforcement certainly outnumbering the number of protesters or other people that are potentially still lingering around. In fact, the large number of protesters, most of them we saw running into those tunnels. It was just an exceedingly long line of people, and right now, Lesley, like you mentioned, they are not taking any more chances. They've come back out. They've sort of reestablished the quote-unquote status quo of the last couple of hours and resettled on this street to
maintain their presence and make sure that it seems like nobody else. This is the tunnel here where a lot of folks who were seeing run off into in just the last 5 to 10 minutes. Well, of course, we do want to let you know that in the meantime, 2,000 National Guard members have been deployed by President Trump. The expectation is that they are going to be here within the next 24 hours.
And here is what we know so far. If you want to look at your screen, we know there have been ICE raids throughout the day, ICE raid protests throughout the day. LAPD tonight declared an unlawful assembly in downtown LA to get some of those people off the street right around 8:30. We know that federally, U.S. Attorney Bill Lesley tells us 20 people were detained throughout the day for impeding on investigations. 3 deputies have been injured after someone, we believe, threw a Molotov cocktail at them in the Paramount area. And again, as Gio said, 2,000 National Guardsmen are expected to be deployed here to Los Angeles in the next 24 hours.
And of course, we will be keeping an eye on this throughout the rest of the evening, of course, into the overnight hours and morning hours as well. So stay with KCAL News and KCALnews.com for continuing coverage of the immigration raids, both on TV and online. Remember, we are also streaming 24/7 on CBS News Los Angeles.